Hey guys, what is going on? Lego Man 123 back with another video, and welcome to another tier listing making video, where today in this episode, I'll be ranking my strongest Avatar The Last Airbender characters, both physically and mentally. So without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off, we have Aang, and he is probably the most strongest character because he can control all four elements. And then his physical power is definitely really strong. And then also his mental power, because he uses it to actually not kill Ozai, because everyone is telling him to actually do this. And if you don't, like, the war's going to continue. He's going to destroy the world and all that. So he has this sort of power to actually destroy him by using energy bending, which I think is definitely really cool. And I really liked how Aang didn't listen to like everyone and like agree, yeah, we have to kill him. He actually wanted to listen to like the monks who taught him that even if someone does something really bad, like there's still no need to actually kill them. So for that, I'm gonna put Aang in first position in A. Then we have Appa, and Appa does have a lot of strength because he can very easily like knock a bunch of people out. Very strong and like flying around and all that. And then physically a lot of power, and then mentally definitely a lot of power because he's pretty much like a human, because like he does feel emotion and all that, like scaredness. When we have an episode called Appa's Lost Days, we actually see him go through some pretty hard stuff. So I might possibly put him in like second position in A. Then we have Kyoshi, definitely a lot of power, both physically and mentally. Mentally, I think she just uses her power so she can get what she wants. Like, she uses justice to actually do stuff. So that is definitely really strong. And then physically, she definitely does have a lot of power because like she pushed like a whole island away. So that was definitely really strong. So I might possibly put her in B because mentally she does use this power to actually stop things from happening, and she does like use it for justice, which I think is definitely reasonable. Then we have Azula, definitely a lot of power for her, both physically and mentally, because mentally she does like have some really nice plans, and she can easily like almost predict what's going to happen and all that. So I thought that was definitely really cool. But then in like the couple of episodes, like in the final season, she does turn a little, like she has like a hallucination of her mum and all that, which was definitely quite sort of spooky. So her sort of mental side does sort of turn a bit, but then physically she does have a lot of power. She can generate lightning and blue fire, so I might possibly put her in like maybe first position in B. Then we have the Earth King's Bear in Ba Sing Se. Really interesting character because he's almost like a human, because he sort of is at like a dinner table with humans. He does wear a hat and wear clothing, which is definitely really interesting. A lot of strength in a bear, but I don't think this bear would actually use it to like hurt people or like protect someone, because I feel like he's a little too friendly to actually do that. But he definitely does have a lot of sort of mental strength because he can be around with humans and all that. So I might possibly put him in maybe third position in B. Then we have the Cabbage Guy. I thought this was definitely a really nice character. I might possibly put him in maybe like last position in B, because he definitely does have a lot of strength, being like a cabbage sort of person and doing that type of stuff. And then sort of mentally he kind of sometimes gets a little angry because sometimes he's like sort of cabbage sort of stalls get ruined and all that, so definitely really sad. Maybe I might move him down into C. Then we have Combustion Man, or Sparky Boom Man. This person definitely does have a lot of power because he can generate like a huge sort of explosion from his eye, so that is definitely really cool. And then mentally, you really don't see too much of like his sort of mental strength, because I feel like he just does it because he's like doing it, he's getting paid and all that. I feel like he's just being hired to actually do stuff. So that is quite a shame, but he definitely does have a lot of power. So I might possibly put him into third position in B. Then we have Zhao, and this was the person who actually destroyed the Moon Spirit. Definitely a lot of strength because he can very easily like dodge and all that. He can shoot some pretty nice sort of fireballs and all that. But then his mental side is definitely way more strong because his ambition overtakes his sort of judgment and all that because he wants to destroy the moon spirit. But if he does do it, then like the whole world will be affected because everyone does need a moon, not just the waterbenders. So his sort of ambition to actually do this then does cloud his judgment, and he does end up actually doing this. So for that, I might possibly put him into maybe first position in C. Then we have one of the swamp benders, and this is really interesting because they actually use like the swamp environment to create some really cool stuff. So that is definitely quite powerful. And then their sort of mental side is definitely really strong as well, but not as strong as some other characters like Aang, because like they're in the swamp, so they don't really connect with too many people in there, but they can definitely use it for other things. So I might possibly put him into maybe second position in C. Then we have like the Guru or like Pakui. I can't 100% remember his name, so very sorry for that. Definitely a lot of mental strength for this character because he can connect with a lot of stuff. Like he helps Aang unlock his sort of chakras. Definitely really powerful. He has a lot of sort of inspiring sort of words and all that. He helps Appa. So definitely really powerful in his mental side. But I feel like with his sort of physical strength, you really don't see him fight too much. But I feel like he could definitely do it like all sort of cool moves, like acrobatic moves and all that, but not as good as Ty Lee. So I might possibly put him into maybe first position in C because his mental side is definitely really strong. Next we have, I believe, Haku, who is Katara and Sokka's dad. He definitely does have a lot of strength on the physical side because he can very easily take out firebenders and all sorts of benders by only just using like spears and shields. So that was definitely really interesting to see. He also does have quite a nice sort of mental side as well because he really likes to like protect his family and other people. So that is definitely really nice, thinking of others before yourself. He also likes to use it to like come up with plans and all that, quite strategized plans, which is definitely really cool to actually see that. So I might possibly put him into third position in C. Now the next character, I've actually forgotten what his name is, but I can definitely remember him. So he is an earthbender, so that is really cool to actually see that because that can be used for both attack and defense, which is a really nice sort of mental side because you're actually thinking about that. And then physically, he can definitely take out most sort of benders by using it for both defense and attack as well. Like, you can easily, like, shoot them while defending yourself. So that was definitely really cool to actually think about that and see. And then, mentally as well, he's definitely a really nice character. And I like how he tries to sort of see the good in people. And, like, he's quite kind and all that. So I might possibly put him into third last position in C. Then we have Momo, now a really interesting character as well, because he has a quite low sort of strength in him because he's quite small and he's also quite fragile because he can definitely fly around, which I think is definitely really nice. Like, he can quickly get away from enemies. But, like, if he's in a battle with, say, like a predator, then he's probably not going to win apart from, like, flying away. So that is the down sort of side on him. But then mentally, he's a really nice character because he could definitely find food for himself. He can, like, sort of help people and all that type of stuff, like getting stuff. But then it's quite hard to actually understand humans because he just, like, hears weird sounds from them. And he's also quite sort of trained from Aang because, like, he can easily fly onto Aang's shoulder without, like, Aang calling him. So that's definitely really cool. So I might possibly put Momo into, maybe fourth, no, maybe last position in B, maybe. Then I might move the Guru maybe into second position in B. Then we have Jet. Now, he is also clouded by ambition to actually destroy the Fire Nation, and it does cloud his judgment because if he does this, then he's just going to hurt innocent people to actually complete this goal. So that is definitely quite sort of sad to actually think about it. He's doing the good thing, but then it actually turns out to be the bad thing, which is definitely really interesting. And then his strength on the sort of physical side is definitely really cool. He can very easily take out Aang because, like, he came out of nowhere and, like, destroyed Aang glider. He can very easily, like, get up into trees. He does have, like, these really cool hook swords, which are definitely really helpful. So a lot of really nice training went into him. but then his ambition does like cloud his judgment because he wants to destroy the Fire Nation, but to do this he actually has to like kill innocent people, which is quite sad. So I might possibly put him maybe third position in C. Then we have Julie, I believe her name is. Maybe not. No, Judy. Yeah, there we go. She definitely does have a lot of sort of mental strength in her because she was brainwashed. So she basically has like no idea if there's a war in Ba Sing Se because she was brainwashed into thinking there's no war in Ba Sing Se. And like she's been sort of filled with a bunch of lies. And then physically, I don't think she has like any strength because she had to like help Team Avatar like make sure they were not anywhere near like clues to figuring out like the secrets behind Ba Sing Se, and like she pretty much failed with that job because Team Avatar easily got like past her. So she definitely doesn't have enough strength to actually like stop Team Avatar. So I might possibly put her in maybe D. Then we have Katara. She definitely does have a lot of strength for like I was about to say firebending, but waterbending. Like she could do some really cool moves with it, and we do see that in the final episode of Katara and Zuko facing Azula. She does this really cool move where like she spurts up water and like she has something to do with her nose and like she floats around in it, which was definitely really cool to see that. So a lot of strength for her. And then mentally she definitely does think of others before herself as well, and I really like that, just like her father. And then also she definitely does believe in Aang, and I think she's the one who believes in Aang the most, which I think is definitely really nice. So I might possibly put her maybe in first position in B. Then we have Boomy. Now a really interesting character once again because he definitely does have a lot of strength. Like he can very easily like have massive boulders and all that. And then his sort of mental side is definitely really cool as well because I really enjoyed him because instead of just coming up with challenges what are like really serious and like deadly, he tries to come up with a sort of a fun and interesting idea, which I think is definitely really cool. And I also really like how as a kid he was quite fun and like he had this really cool laugh, and he does carry that on to like a quite old adult, which I thought was definitely really cool both mentally and physically. So I might possibly put him in maybe fourth position. Yeah, maybe fourth position in B. Then we have like this little kid Zuko does meet in an episode called Zuko Alone. He doesn't have a lot of strength because he's only like a little kid, which I think is definitely reasonable. But he does sort of get kidnapped by like earthbenders who are actually helping in the war, but they actually use that sort of power to actually brag at people and make fun of them and like sort of insult them in a way. And the little kid actually does get kidnapped by him. So Zuko actually does go there and he has this sort of fight with the earthbenders, but then he does sort of firebending, and then he walks over to the kid to actually give the knife Iroh gave him when he was a kid, but then he actually does reject it, which I think is definitely reasonable because instead of just like accepting the knife and don't care about him being a firebender, he actually does like sort of a click and say, "You're a firebender, I don't want to like know you and all that, go away." So his definitely mental side is definitely really strong because he has like this whole sort of connection with being going on with like the firebenders and all that, and actually does use that as soon as he sees a firebender. And then his sort of physical side isn't too strong, but I did really like the whole sort of training sequence with Zuko and the little kid. So he is beginning to get a bit of strength, so I might possibly put him maybe in last position in C. Next we have Long Fang, and this is a really interesting character because he actually uses his mental side to actually hide a lot of stuff. Like he doesn't actually show sort of fear and all that in like the first couple of episodes of season 2, and he actually has this whole sort of operation of a whole sort of a brainwashing facility under the walls of Ba Sing Se, and he doesn't actually show that, and he is the most trusted advisor to the Earth King, so the Earth King doesn't actually expect anything from him, which I think is definitely quite interesting. And then his sort of physical side is quite interesting because I believe he isn't a earthbender or any bender of any types, so he can very easily like sort of talk to people and like sort of twist them a bit and all that type of stuff. Like, he's quite sort of persuasive and all that in a way, so that was definitely quite cool to actually see that. But I might possibly put him maybe in maybe third last position in, no, I might move him up maybe into second position in C. Then we have May. She definitely does have a lot of power because she can very easily like throw sort of like katanas at like people, so that was definitely really cool from like her shirt. And she definitely does have a lot of mental strength as well because she doesn't actually fear Azula as much as others do, and we do actually learn that in, I believe, the Boiling Rock Part 2, so that was definitely quite cool to actually see she standing up to Azula after, like, after everything Azula did to her, so that was definitely quite cool to actually see. And then she also does have a lot of mental strength in, like, sort of helping others because she does help Zuko, like, put his sort of jacket, robes on after, like, the whole sort of battle against Azula. So it was definitely quite cool to actually see that because even though she was, like, actually locked up in the Boiling Rock after, like, Zuko did betray her and all that, she actually does forgive him quite easily, which I think is definitely reasonable. So I might possibly put her into maybe second last position in B. Then we have Jet's father, and this guy is definitely controlled by fear because he actually does build machines and all that type of stuff like weapons for the Fire Nation, because he definitely is controlled by fear because I believe if he didn't actually do this, he would actually get his son taken away from him and all, like, the whole sort of part of the air temple would be destroyed where the home is. So that was definitely quite sad to actually think about it. So he definitely is controlled by fear on his mental side. But then physically, he definitely does have a lot of power, like building machines and all that, very talented and all that. And then I also really liked how he actually joined Team Avatar into actually helping them take down the Fire Nation because the Fire Nation came to actually destroy the air temple. And he does help them from like a new invention with the help of Sokka. So that was definitely quite cool to actually see that. So I might possibly put him into maybe second position in C. Then we have the little girl in an episode where they went to like this village and there was like this lady, Aunt Wu, I believe, maybe something like that, who could actually predict like the future from like clouds. And this was actually Aang's sort of first crush, but Aang didn't really have any feelings for her, but she did. She is definitely clouded by like sort of love and all that. So like a sort of love side in the mental side does sort of come out and spring from her. So she definitely is clouded by that because she really doesn't think of anyone else apart from Aang. And then her sort of physical side, I don't think she has a lot of strength. Now, I'm not being rude or anything, but she is quite young, and she definitely is clouded by love, and she really doesn't want to know anyone else except Aang and do anything else. So that was definitely really cool. So I might possibly put her maybe in last position in C. Then we have Monk Gutsiart. So now this guy was definitely very wise because he did teach Aang pretty much everything, like how to do the spirit world or like how to meditate and all that. And he definitely does have a lot of power, as I believe he's an airbender, but he definitely does have a lot of power both physically and mentally. But I feel like his mental sort of side is a lot more strong because he can sort of meditate for quite a while. So that was definitely quite cool to actually see. So I might possibly put him maybe in third position in A. Next we have Fire Lord Sozin. And this was like the Fire Lord what started the 100-Year War after Avatar Roku. He's like best friend from like childhood up to like their sort of middle age, teenagers almost. They begin to actually like sort of drift away because Avatar Roku was like the Avatar, so we had to like learn all the 4 elements and do that. Whereas Ozai had to like become the Fire Lord and all that. He had to have that sort of responsibility. So their sort of friendship began to like drift away because both of them had sort of different visions and ambitions for like the world. So that was definitely quite cool to actually see. Fire Lord Sozin definitely does have a lot of strength because he can very easily sort of drive fear into people because he is like the Fire Lord. He can persuade people and all that. And then his sort of strength in using firebending was definitely really strong because I believe he did invent Ozai's comment, so that was definitely quite cool to see. But then he is definitely clouded by like judgment and all that, because Avatar Roku was like his best friend, but he chose his best friend while he was actually dying in front of him to actually not save him, but he would rather like start sort of a new era. So that was definitely quite sort of interesting to like see your best friend actually sort of leave you to die there, so you can actually start sort of a new age. So definitely really cool to actually see that, but also like really sad because your best friend is leaving you so he can actually complete this sort of ambition and goal he does have. Because without Avatar Roku, like, he can very easily sort of complete the goal he does have in mind. So I might, like, possibly put him into maybe, like, 4th position in B. Then we have Parku. Now, definitely a really skilled waterbender. He can use the power for, like, taking out firebenders and all that type of stuff. Really strong. Like, he even took out a lot of firebenders on Sozin's comet, so that was definitely quite cool to see. But then his sort of mental side is a little strange because at first when we meet him, he's actually like quite sexist because he doesn't want to teach Katara waterbending because it's like not the way in the Northern Water Tribe, and like the people in the Northern Water Tribe, if you're a waterbender, you have to learn like healing and all that, so which is quite sexist because like Parku doesn't want to teach her because like it's the sort of tradition in the Northern Water Tribe to actually learn healing, and we learn that Parku actually loved Katara and Sokka's grandma, but then she did leave because she didn't want to have like the traditions of the Northern Water Tribe that like do healing and all that, because she wanted to be sort of like free and she wanted to do what she wanted to do. Like, she didn't want to be controlled by tradition, so she moved to the Southern Water Tribe. It was definitely really sad to actually see Parku sort of explain this story. But then I really liked how he actually did sort of turn and like tell Katara that I will teach you and all that. So it was definitely quite cool to actually see that. And he does turn out to be quite friendly. And then in like I believe the 2nd episode of the 4 last episodes, we learned that him and Katara and Sokka's grandma actually got reunited and I believe like got married. I'm not 100% sure, so I might possibly put him maybe in 1st position in C. Then we have one of the freedom fighters on Jet's sort of freedom fighters team. I'm not 100% sure on his name, but he definitely does have a lot of strength physically, because he's like the sort of muscle and sort of helping hand to actually sort of take out enemies, because he's like the sort of really big and strong one. But then I feel like mentally he really doesn't have too much sort of strength in that. He might be like big and strong, but it's kind of weak on his mental side, because he definitely does follow Jet like definitely a lot, because he doesn't like stop and think, wait, we're hurting innocent people, but it's not like the good thing to do. So he doesn't actually like think of that. He just follows Jet no matter what. So it's definitely quite interesting to see that. So I might possibly put him maybe in maybe there in C. Then we have Iroh, and I really like this character because he definitely does have a lot of strength, both physically and mentally, because like he can very easily like shoot fire from his mouth, which was definitely really cool, like almost like dragon's breath. I believe that was like his sort of nickname while he was like the general, so that was definitely quite cool to actually see that. And then physically, he does have a lot of power, and then also mentally, he does have, I believe, like the strongest power of sort of mentalism in the sort of firebenders, because he doesn't believe in like ambitions and all that. He doesn't want to like rule over other people. He just wants to be sort of like free and being able to do what he wants to do. So it's definitely quite cool, and he sort of guided Zuko on the path he did as well. He doesn't fight for good or bad in like the first couple of seasons, but then he actually does decide to actually fight for good, which I think was definitely really wise of Iroh to actually do that. So it's definitely very interesting. So I might possibly put Iroh in maybe 4th position in A. Next we have Avatar Roku. He's definitely really strong because he did control all four elements, but then I feel like his sort of mental side also had a really big part because he did like tell Aang and like guide Aang on the right path with like his sort of wise words and like teaching Aang the past mistakes he did to actually help Aang, so then Aang wouldn't actually do that. So it was definitely quite cool to actually see that. But then he still believes in Fire Lord Sozin that he can actually change, because when they were like kids and growing up, they had this really nice relationship as like really close friends. But as they started to drift away from one another, because Roku became the Avatar, and then Sozin became, sorry about that, became Fire Lord. So it was definitely quite cool to like see this sort of friendship sadly break apart. And then, as I said, he still believes in Sozin. He can like be good, but then after like the whole sort of volcano thing, I believe he like sort of loses faith and sort of trust in Sozin, because Sozin actually does leave him there. So it was definitely quite cool to see that. I might possibly put him maybe next to his friend Ozai, because he definitely does teach Aang a lot of things, so then Aang doesn't like do the same mistakes he does. Then we have Harma. Now, definitely a really sort of sad character, because we learned that she is a bloodbender, which means that you could control the blood and like sort of water in someone to like do whatever you want. So like you can move their arm up and down, you can like twist their body in all sorts of sort of shapes. Definitely a really sort of cringy sound, like hearing the sort of blood sort of turn and twist and all that, and like the bones. Really, really creepy. But her sort of backstory was definitely really sad, because we learned that she was originally a waterbender, and she kept like fighting firebenders from like sort of destroying the Southern Water Tribe. Like the Fire Lord kept bringing in more and more troops, and then the waterbenders slowly sort of drifted away. They got captured, and then Hama eventually did get captured, and she learned that she could actually use the full moon to actually do water inside of someone's body, which is like blood, and also like the water in someone to actually control them. So it was definitely really sort of sad to see that. But then her ambition does judge other people, because we learned that in an episode called Puppet Master, she actually does sort of kidnap people who are like not firebenders, but sort of like fire sort of citizens. So they live in like the towns of the sort of Fire Lord sort of city and all that. So it's definitely quite sad to actually see that she kidnapped like innocent people, and I believe some of them were like firebenders. She kidnapped sort of innocent firebenders because like after everything happened to her, like she lost all her family, she was in prison for a very long time. So she is definitely clouded by sort of judgment in other people, because not everyone is like the same. Some people might be like firebenders, but they actually use it for good. So it was definitely really sad to actually see that she judged other people even not knowing them. So I might possibly put her maybe in maybe third last, no, maybe fourth last position. Maybe no, I'll put it in her fifth last position in C. Next, we have another freedom fighter in Jet's gang. Now, I'm not 100% sure on her name, but I definitely do remember her. So she definitely does have a lot of sort of strength, even knowing her age. She can very easily like defend herself, so it's definitely quite cool to actually see that. But then also with her sort of mental side, as well as the sort of a strong guy on his team, on Jet's team, she also does like that sort of judgment in Jet. Like she doesn't ever stop and think like, are we doing the right thing hurting innocent people to actually complete this goal you have? So I might possibly put her maybe fourth, no, maybe I believe that's like sixth last position in C. Next we have Sokka, and this is the only character on Team Avatar who can't actually bend an element, but he can definitely still defend himself as much as someone with an elemental power can, because he does use like swords, spears, shields, like armor to definitely protect himself, and then like the weapons he does have very easily like defend and attack other people. So it's definitely quite cool to actually see this happen. And I really like how he definitely does have a lot of strength because like he can, as I said, he can like use weapons and shields to actually defend and attack people. And then his sort of mental side is definitely really cool and interesting as well because when they actually do meet Jet, Sokka is the only one who actually does like suspect stuff and all that because he really doesn't trust Jet as much as Aang and Katara do, which was definitely really cool because like he sort of has this sort of judgment in sort of Jet, like not trusting him and all that, which was definitely quite cool. So I might possibly put maybe Sokka in maybe like 4th position in B. Then we have Suki. Now this is a really interesting character because we learned that females dressed up in like sort of clothing of Avatar, sort of Kyoshi, are warriors, and they can definitely defend themselves. Really cool to actually see this in pretty awesome actually. It was definitely cool to actually see females have really cool sort of armor and makeup on, defending themselves with like fans and all that. Really cool. And like she definitely does have a lot of strength on the sort of physical side. And then mentally I really did like that as well because she starts to like have this sort of crush on Sokka, which was definitely quite cool, and she definitely does have a lot of really nice choices throughout the seasons. So I might possibly put her maybe like in between Avatar, Roku, and Sozin. Then we have one of like the sort of challenges of like the Blind Bandit because like this there's like this sort of almost like WWE inspired sort of like wrestling sort of gang. I believe it's underground or like in a cave somewhere where like a bunch of people with like sort of different approaches on earthbending actually take part in a sort of WWE inspired idea, and this is one of the competitors against the Blind Bandit. Definitely really cool. He definitely does have a lot of strength because he's like really big and all that. But then he does have a lot of sort of mental side to him because he is easily and quick to actually judge the Blind Bandit because she is like a kid and all that. Like he's thinking, oh, I can easily take her out. Like he very easily judged her, and like he can very easily be like sort of mistaken because like he believes that he can very easily take her out, but then like in a few seconds he is actually taken out because he thought he does like quick moves and all that, but then Toph actually does sort of defend herself and can very easily outwit him. So I might possibly put him maybe in 4th last position if it's gonna let me. 4th last position in C. Then we have the Boulder, and this guy is definitely way more sort of judgment because he's sort of like a cocky in a way, almost because he thinks he can actually take out Toph because like he's sort of uplifting himself and like he's sort of being cocky to like the fans and all that watching. And then sort of physically he definitely does have a lot of power because like he can very easily like bring up boulders and rocks and all that. Well, his name is the Boulder, so I reckon he probably could do that. And I might possibly put him maybe in third last position in C because he is definitely a lot more judgmental than the last character we did talk about. But I really did like the sort of strength and he does have, and I really liked how he actually did team up with Toph and all that in the sort of war on the sort of Fire Lord capital. Then we have another person in Jet's sort of gang of merry men. No, I'm just kidding, the Freedom Fighters. And this is like the sort of youngest, I believe. Definitely really sad to actually see this because he's being influenced by like not bad people, but Jet like is influencing him that the sort of people who these sort of firebenders are bad, and whoever like we have to take out, even if it's like innocent people, we're gonna do that just to take out firebenders. Definitely really sad to actually see this kid being encouraged by like little people. And then he does have a lot of sort of mental strength because he doesn't think too much because he just very easily just comes off from other people. So if someone has an idea, he will just go with it because he really doesn't have too much power in the sort of Freedom Fighters gang because he's like the youngest. So definitely quite sad to actually see that. But he definitely does have a lot of sort of strength even knowing his age. He can very easily defend himself. It was definitely really cool to see that. So I might possibly put him maybe in maybe fourth position. No, maybe third position if it's gonna come on. Maybe third position in C. Next, we have like the sort of ticket person and like the authority at this sort of like harbor to actually get to Ba Sing Se, to actually like take a boat, then to like get taken to like a station, so then you get to Ba Sing Se. So she definitely does have a lot of power because she can definitely like deny people and like say to people that you're not going to Ba Sing Se, because she can like have a stamp and like deny them and all that. So definitely a lot of power. But then mentally, I feel like she uses that power to like brag at people and like show them that she has more power over them. Even knowing that like the Avatar was there, like she still tries to use her power against the Avatar. So definitely quite interesting to actually see she would stand up to someone so strong and like stronger, or much stronger than her. And then she also like denies the Cabbage Man, which was definitely really sad, because she then like crushes, no, like she gets, I believe, her sort of guards and henchmen to like destroy the cabbages. So very sad to see that. I might possibly put her maybe in, I'm thinking last position in C. No, I might put her maybe in fourth last position in C. Then we have Toph. Definitely a really, really strong character. Like, she can use her sort of earth bending. Even though she's blind, she can definitely like sense sort of people's step and all that. So that was definitely quite cool. She uses her sort of sensors from like people's step, and then also her ears to actually hear people and like what they're gonna do. So definitely a really strong and definitely sort of mental tactic and also strategy to actually know that. And then at first, mentally, she was actually quite sort of mean to people. Like, she wanted people to do everything for herself, because like in Team Avatar, like she wanted them to actually do what they had to do and like do that type of stuff, because she was in, I believe, like the richest family in one of the towns of like the sort of Earth nation. So quite interesting to actually like have that in there. But then she does begin to like have this really nice bond and connection with Team Avatar. I thought that was definitely really cool. So I might like possibly put her in maybe fourth position. Maybe fourth position in B. Next we have, I believe his name is like Wan Shan Tan. Hope that I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I'm not, then very sorry about that. And I believe it goes like Wan Shi Tan, the something what knows 1,000 things. So definitely pretty interesting to actually know that this spirit knows 1,000 and even more things. But then I feel like he uses this power to actually like brag at people and like saying that I know more than you, I'm better. Because he kind of does tell this to Team Avatar when they actually go visit this library to get some information about these sort of Fire Nation, so then they can actually sort of plan ahead of the Fire Nation. They actually learned that Wan Shi Tan is like the sort of spirit guardian of the library, and he knows 1,000 things. And then it was definitely quite cool to actually see that he has these really big wings, and like he's pretty much like a really big owl. Definitely quite cool. And he definitely does have a lot of strength, because like he can very easily fly around, and seeing as he's like a really big owl, he can very easily like knock people off and all that. So definitely quite cool. But he definitely does use his sort of mental side and like the 1,000 things he knows as sort of a bragging sort of thing. So I might possibly put him maybe in maybe fourth. No, I might fourth position in C. Then we have Zuko. Now, definitely a really, really nice character, because he definitely does have a lot of strength, like from like anger, frustration, to actually control his fire bending. So definitely really cool to actually see that. And then mentally, he definitely does have a lot of strength, because he feels like he's doing like the good thing, like bringing in the Avatar. But then we actually learn that's actually the wrong thing to actually do that. So I really like that sort of twist Zuko does make, and he actually does do that in Season 3 and join Team Avatar. I really like the decision he did make. I thought it was definitely really wise of him, and with help from Iroh, definitely really cool. And then throughout the seasons, he does make some quite bad and good decisions, but that definitely did have a really nice sort of redemption arc on him. I really did like the redemption arc. And then I also liked how instead of using like frustration and anger to control his firebending, because when he was about to teach Aang firebending, we learned that he doesn't actually have the power to do firebending anymore because he doesn't use frustration and sort of anger to do it, because we learned that what was sort of powering Zuko to actually do firebending was hunting down the Avatar and all that. So definitely quite interesting to note. And then they actually go to like this sort of original firebenders and learn the truth, which was definitely really cool. So I might possibly put him maybe in first position in B. Next we have Fire Lord Ozai, and he definitely does have a lot of strength in firebending because he can pretty much like very easily take out sort of people by using like the skills and knowledge he has learned over the years. And he definitely does have a lot of power once Sozin's comet does come. Like, he can have this sort of massive sort of fire spread, which is definitely quite scary but really cool at the same time to see. But then he definitely does have a lot of mental strength. Not good, but mostly bad. He is definitely filled with a lot of ambition to actually sort of like restart the world, but in the sort of like Fire Nation vision. So definitely covered by a lot of ambition mentally. And he also does have an ambition for Azula to be pretty much exactly like him, because when they were kids, Azula and Zuko was like sort of the disappointment to Ozai, but then Azula was like the perfect child to him. So he wanted Azula to be exactly like him, but sort of in the sort of female version. So it was definitely quite sad to actually see how he rejected one of his kids to make one sort of like perfect and all that. But then he does sort of begin to treat Azula quite poorly in a way, like in an episode when he was like becoming the sort of Phoenix King, quite a cool name. He actually like spoke out to Azula, like saying "Stop it, Azula" and all that, and then like sort of Azula sort of twisted there. So Ozai began to like have a sort of mental strength in believing that no one should have like a sort of perfect child in a way, and you can't like make a child your image. So definitely quite interesting to see that. I might possibly put him maybe in first position, maybe last position in maybe last position in B. Then we have like one of the like main sort of guardians type people in the swamp. Definitely really powerful bender. Like, he can have this really cool sort of like swamp monster thing with like huge vines and like a lot of protection, because like he has like a bunch of layers on him, so then people can't actually sort of get to him. And like if sort of a bender cuts off his arm, he can very easily like grow back. Definitely really strong. And then also mentally, he definitely does have a lot of power, because like he can sort of connect with the environment in the swamp, and like he can like connect with the roots and all that, and he does sort of teach Aang this sort of skill he does have. So definitely really strong there. So I might possibly put him maybe second position in C. Then finally we have Ty Lee. She definitely does have quite a lot of power, because like she can very easily dodge sort of firebenders and all of the other benders. Like, she can dodge shields and all that, swords, because she is like sort of an acrobatic. Like, she could do like backflips, front flips, pretty much you name it. She can bend her body in all sorts of ways. And she also does learn to actually sort of chi block and block the sort of earth bending, fire bending out of someone's hands or legs. So like she can actually block that for like a certain amount of time. So definitely really cool to actually see Ty Lee do this skill. But then her sort of mental side is a little strange, because at first she is really happy to actually see Azula when they actually get reunited, and she's quite a sort of happy and quite enjoyable character to actually watch, because she has such a positive and quite an enthusiastic spirit about pretty much everything, even if it is bad. So definitely really cool to actually see that. But then she begins to sort of like not trust Azula as much, because like after a few episodes, it was quite cool to actually see that. And then she actually does chi block Azula, which was definitely quite shocking to actually see this, because this sort of positive and enthusiastic person actually chi blocks one of her like best friends, which I think is definitely reasonable because like after everything Azula like did to them, so quite interesting to see that. I might possibly put her maybe in like third position, or maybe in fifth position in B because she does make some really good choices. So just quickly, I thought I'd come back and do a couple of changes. So I might move one of the freedom fighters down, maybe possibly into that position, and then I might move Harper down into possibly maybe third last position in B, and then maybe move the Ba Sing Se Bear maybe into last position in B, and then move Fire Lord Ozai maybe possibly in that position, and then move Melee maybe up into maybe that position, and then maybe move Combustion Man down into maybe maybe down into this position. Yeah, I think this will be my final results. So I hope you guys did enjoy this episode as much as I did making it, because I really did enjoy sharing my thoughts and opinions on my strongest Avatar The Last Airbender characters. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below, and if you have your own list or your strongest Avatar The Last Airbender character, I would love to hear it down in the comments below. If you guys stayed to the end of the video, it really does mean a lot, and I really do appreciate it because this episode was definitely a long one. So as always guys, hope you guys did enjoy this video, and I can see you soon. Goodbye!